Hey there, and thank you for tuning into the Designated Pundits. Tonight we are talking NYCFC, and we're previewing the 2024 Major League Soccer season. By now, you guys know what we're doing. 29 teams, 29 episodes. We're previewing each team from around Major League Soccer. So thank you for tuning in, however you're watching on YouTube or your favorite audio platform. Please make sure you subscribe, send a like. You know, that stuff goes so far in us building our channel and being able to bring in great guests like the one, the only Tom Sweezy from MLS Aces. Tom, how you doing tonight?
I'm glad to be back. I give you guys all the credit in the world for doing these individual episode previews. I did it last year. Absolutely fun to do, miserable to do the behind the scenes work. So I give you guys all the credit for that. So thank you for having me back, though, Bob.
It's right around team 21 or 22 where it starts to get a little bit old because now I'm shooting out those DMs that aren't getting right back to me, and like scheduling is a little bit of a mess.
For sure, and I was no help with that either. So that's a hand up on my behalf too.
Oh, right now, I mean, everyone has their own life, and you know, you're doing us a favor, so we got to make time, right? Let's get into recapping the 2023 season first because we got to talk about the past. Guys, we're 9, 14, and 11 for NYCFC, finishing 11th in the East, missed the playoffs by only 2 points. 35 goals scored and 39 conceded. That's a -4 goal differential. Good on defense, not a good offensive performance there. And they were 0-6-6 in the summer, had no wins between April 23rd and July 1st. So that early part of the summer is really, you know, what you can point to and say, hey, this is why we missed the playoffs. Like we couldn't pick up one game in that time and you guys would have been in.
It was a very that timeline specifically that we're talking about, that April 23rd to July 1st timeline there. It was a very, I think, it was very clear and abundant that we did not have a true 9, and I will stick to this point. I said it last year, I'll say it this year, and I'll say it moving forward. The Talis Magno is not a true number 9, in my opinion. I think that's what Nick Cushing and the organization was pushing for the first half of the year. Clearly didn't work out. Goal scoring was not there. Defensively, we were there and we were a good team, but we were dropping points and dropping games by not that much on the goal differential side of things for that first half of the season. But we get through the summer. We bring in Munsif Bakrar from, I think, the Croatian First Division, and we see a complete change in the offense. We see Talis Magno take a little bit of a step back in a starting role, but we see others around Bakrar kind of help the offense produce in a way that you actually see when you have a starting level striker, starting level number 9 on the field. So I think things started to change after the summer transfer window for us that kind of got us back into the playoff picture, where I think probably weeks leading up to decision day, not many people had NYCFC in there. But look, at the end of the day, we were in there up until technically decision day, that final game, even though we needed a little bit of a Hail Mary to get in. But look, I think the club is making the necessary changes that they necessarily didn't do leading into last season.
I just want to bring up one other point about last season, you know, and falling short. 1-8-8 on the road.
Yes.
You know, but this is not a bad team. This is a team that went 8-3-6 at home, right? We literally just got done with Vancouver a moment ago. They have the exact same home record, and we're talking about them, you know, very positive. They're, you know, just literally a couple of points from being a top 4 team in the West. It feels like that inability to get things done away from home just killed you.
For sure. And I think, look, Major League Soccer as a whole is a very home dominant league. I mean, I guess you can say that about any soccer league globally, but I think in Major League Soccer specifically, right, you saw the teams last year, and I feel like you see it every year. The teams that have that winning road record or even close to like a 500 road record, they're the teams that are competing at the top of their conferences and competing and looking good week in and week out. So I'm not even going to say like a bad road record is necessarily a blatant this team is struggling in Major League Soccer, but one road win is not great, and that's not the excuse I'm throwing out there.
One road win is not enough.
It's not that. It's not that for sure. But look, NYCFC, the home field advantage of playing at Yankee Stadium is starting to slip more and more as home games are being played throughout Citi Field, Yankee Stadium, Red Bull Arena, and I think even last year we played out at LAFC's place as well for a game. So the home field advantage, I think, is even starting to be a struggle in that sense. We are still winning games regularly at Yankee Stadium. So I don't know. It's the stadium and the actual where the games are being played is an interesting conversation piece for NYCFC because hopefully the new stadium coming in 2026 can change that and we can have a beautiful brand new park and we have our own home field advantage there. But leading up into that, I think there's going to be plenty of conversation around around that for NYCFC faithful.
Let's take a look at how your goals were scored last year. Gabriel Pereira, 6 goals, 3 assists. Santiago Rodriguez, 5 goals, 5 assists. Talas Magno, 4 goals, 2 assists. Andres Jasson, 3 goals, 1 assist. Brian Soufre, 2 goals, 3 assists. And Richard Ledesma, 4 assists. Notice something missing there? Goals.
A striker, I'm going to say.
Yeah.
Well, the one
main
thing
contributors, you guys spread the love around. Everyone had their shot, and you got guys who don't play attacking positions in the top 6 here. That's a problem, but
yes.
That produces some interesting dynamics. Talk about these contributors here.
So the main thing that I do also want to point out is Gabi Pereira, who was our leading goal scorer on the team last year. He left in the summer. He was not around for half of the season for NYCFC last year, and he was sold
1,500 minutes or something.
Yeah, I mean, look, he was absolutely on fire when we sold him. I was so upset, to be honest, because he was the only one that looked like he was giving an offensive spark to this club. Where again, I mentioned before some of the struggles and some of the things that were missing. But coming into more of the second half of the season, again, when Munsaf Bakrar, who isn't on this list, but when he was signed, he I think allowed things to flow that opened up things for Asante Rodriguez, who, in my opinion, talent-wise, is one of the top number 10s in Major League Soccer. I just think he's young and he still needs to grow into that game, into his game a little bit. Talas Magno, who definitely had a down year last year, who I'd like to see a bounce back in 2024. Andres Yasin, homegrown. I think he is a guy who I don't know if he's ever going to be MLS consistent starter on the wing, but I think what you saw towards the last 10 to 12 games for him last year was really impressive, even outside of what he put into a box score, right? And I think if he can play a regular part at that as a depth position, that top that like Santi Tyus and Andres Yasin is really what I'm looking at. Look, Brian Koufre, Richie Ledesma, sad to see them go. They departed on some loans back to their home clubs, but I think that there's a lot of room to build off of here for some of these guys. And obviously, look, half this list is no longer with the club, but last year definitely was a struggle for sure.
It's crazy. One thing about this list too that I want to point out is that Koufre is the only guy on this list who is older than 24 years old, and he is the old man of the group at 27. This is an incredibly young team. We were talking about this, right before. This is an incredibly young team, but it is something to be getting contributions from young players. That's not always an easy thing to do. And it is cool to see a team really lean into that and give guys like, the midfield trio, I guess, of like Santi, Parks and Sands, as many minutes and opportunities as they got.
And youth is going to be the conversation that we're going to have tonight, probably over and over again about this team. The oldest, at least on my official depth chart in my head and that I have written down, I think Thiago Martins is probably, the veteran, quote unquote, of the starting 11 at 28 years old, and look, quote unquote older center back. 28's really not that old coming from a 28-year-old. But Thiago Martin's like, he's a more experienced veteran center back in this group. And, he's going to need to, I think, be that and be more of that, especially while a guy like a Maxi Morales is out with injury still and everything surrounding that, and the lack of, I guess, elder statesman leadership on this squad.
Yeah, I would assume that a lot of the reason for the younger players being an academy and being a sister club, very similar to what Red Bulls is doing, players get better, they get sold, they move up the chain. Players, get loaned down sometimes. You can mix pieces. If there's a player, instead of loaning them out, you can send them to your sister club, let them get some minutes developing somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
Red Bulls land, because that's where I'm from, is very conflicted on whether or not that's a good thing. I'm in the generally positive way. If a player is 26 years old, we don't need to know what they're going to develop into. They're done. Toast is burnt. Get him out, and in the other, I want to see younger players get a chance, and the fact that you're getting some world-class young men to come on this team, it's exciting to me, but I know it's not for everyone. Where do you fall?
I'm for it, but I think I'm for it. I want to see young talent come to the roster, right? Because at the end of the day, when you see a guy like Tati Castellanos get sold, to Lazio and NYCFC gets to bring in that money back, right? It doesn't matter if City Football Group scouted, found, and sent the player to NYCFC. We still get the money at the end of the day, that we can obviously use it with all MLS's, convoluted rules and stuff like that. But I think the thing that separates kind of what NYCFC does to what the Red Bulls do in Major League Soccer, and why I prefer the NYCFC route, is the sheer number of clubs that are owned, right? And I think maybe a little bit more focused on, in the sense of, right, like there's a main focus right now for Bahia down in South America, which is a City Football Group owned organization, where we're seeing a lot of Brazilian, Argentinian, Uruguayan talent come up through those leagues where City Football Group has their stamp and are being sent up to NYCFC. When you look at what Augustino Heda came this offseason, when you look at where Talis Magno came from, and a Julian Fernandez and a Tati Castellanos, right? Like, those are clear examples of where City Football Group has their kind of, feet in the door, I would say, of these leagues and of these certain clubs down in South America. And they see NYCFC as one of their few different stomping grounds where they can see these players develop, grow, either be a successful piece for a larger City Football Group organization. Obviously there's the main one in Man City, or selling it on for a transfer fee or something like that.
Great. Thank you. Let's now talk. We got to turn the page. 2023 is behind us. We're looking ahead towards 2024, and we're talking about some outgoing players. Brian Soufré is out. Richie Ledesma, Matthias Pellegrini, those are all outgoing players. Are those any impact losses?
Honestly, I'm going to say Richie Ledesma, probably, in just the sense of giving a true, I guess, backup attacking mid option, or spot starter attacking mid option behind Asante Rodriguez. Matthias Pellegrini, I'm not too worried about him departing this organization. Brian Soufré, though, I did really like him at left back. I don't know if the difference between him and a Kevin O'Toole are going to be that great coming in 2024. So I'm okay with Ledesma and Soufré, who are the two loanees that we had last season. I'm okay with them returning back to their home clubs, and Pellegrini, didn't do much of anything last year. So I'm perfectly fine with the players that are on the out.
Now, we know that I'm notoriously bad with name pronunciations. That's what happens when you're a nerd as a kid and you just read and you make them up on your own. And I studied a little bit of Italian, which actually puts me at a huge disadvantage on these some of these names too, because like the very obvious Italian pronunciation is not how. I'm just going to let you talk about the incoming players.
It's all good. I am not great with pronunciations myself, but I will do my best. Hannes Wolf, he's an Austrian winger that is coming into the club, who has a ton of experience in the Austrian Bundesliga, the German Bundesliga. He's won quite a few trophies, and he is someone who, from kind of what I'm hearing, we are potentially going to have him as like a backup left wing back option, like maybe playing a little bit more defensive. So I'm excited about the possibilities of that, of him kind of maybe being an option there if we decide to play with a little bit of a back three, or if, Kevin O'Toole is really our true main left back option right now, that he can kind of provide a little bit of depth on that left side. So very non-NYCFC like signing, if you ask me, but very excited about it nonetheless. Augustine Ojeda, he is the big marquee signing this offseason. He is the young kid from I think he came from Racing Club down in Argentina. Yeah, he came from Racing down in Argentina. Strong connection between Racing and NYCFC. There's been sales and purchases and everything back and forth between these two clubs for the last few seasons. City Football Group, this was definitely another City Football Group finding Ojeda, interested in Ojeda. Where can we place him? Where can we piece him in? And, to me, it feels like he is going to eventually be the Thales Magno replacement. Magno, hopefully we can get some more production out of him that we saw last year, and Ojeda can then slot in. But, him with a Julian Fernandez, who we got during the summer last year, is a very exciting young pair of wingers. One's 19, one's 20. This could be the long term here. And Bob, you're leaving me with this name here that
I'm sure it's Strahinja. I'm 50% sure that first name is pronounced correctly.
I'm glad you got the easier of the two names here, but I'm going to go Tanasijevic. I'm going to go with that. We'll go with that, right? The one thing that was blatantly obvious to me when I was looking at NYCFC's depth chart about a week and a half ago or whatever, right, was the lack of center back depth. It was Burke Risa, it was Thiago Martins, it was Justin Hack, who can play a little bit of center back, but he's really came up as more of a central midfielder. Can Tavon Gray play a little bit of right center back in a back four, whatever, right? Then we sign Strahinja. I'm just going to go with his first name, and he's definitely an experienced, 26 years old, an experienced European center back who comes from a region where NYCFC has had luck and success in the past. So I don't doubt that the organization knows exactly what they're getting in a center back like him. And look, if we can have a strong rotation of three center backs that we had 2 seasons ago, I think that was I'm going to say last year we were still a very good defensive team, but I think that there was definitely some holes in center back depth. I think 2 years ago is where the center backs and the back line was really where I liked it for the organization. And I think this is starting to resemble some of that.
Love it. My big takeaway was the hype around Hans Wolf, where people didn't even watch a soccer video of him yet, but he posted like a workout video in the gym. Yeah. Like dude was like putting up reps and be like, I love this guy. He's a New Yorker through and through already. All he needs is a flapper in a set of Timbs and just ship him off to Times Square.
That's it. He seemed ready, and I love it. I love when. Look, there is a thing, and there is a thing about coming in to the New York, New Jersey metro area, right? And there's just a certain personality that works in it. And it's not LA, it's not Miami, it's not Chicago. It is this Northeast just level that people outside of it don't really get sometimes. And I like when a player like a Hans Wolf comes in and we can see that he's ready to go. He's ready to be part of the New York, New Jersey culture, and I'm all for it.
Get this man a Taylor ham. Okay, we do want to, before we talk about the projected starting 11, and I do have a little depth chart I pulled up. I want to talk about play style, coaching, tactics, the X's and O's. What should we expect to see week in and week out from NYCFC?
Yep. So coaching, right? Nick Cushing is coming back for his second full season as manager of NYCFC. This will be, I guess, technically he'll be starting his whatever. He has a year and a half's worth of experience where he was an interim manager for half a year 2 years ago. He did win the Campeones Cup, so he has a trophy under his belt. I am going to say that Nick Cushing might be the coach with the hottest of seats starting the 2024 MLS season. Plenty of fan pushback when he was decided to be brought back for this upcoming season. Of the teams that did not make the playoffs, not many clubs kept their manager, and NYCFC was one of them. So I think Nick Cushing, though, I personally do like him, and I can see some of the arguments for why, fans don't want him around, and I can see some of the arguments for why people do. He's a young manager. I still think he's kind of growing and learning in his own right. And I'm excited to see what he can put together for a second full season now that he actually has a few strikers on the depth chart as well. But look, it's going to be what NYCFC always does. It's going to be possession-based soccer. We're going to be playing out of the back. We're going to be controlling the ball, and it's going to be that, we're going to build up. If the play is not there, we're going to recycle this back. We're going to pass it around a little bit until the opening is there. It's going to be very methodical, and that's what New York City does. Especially, right, we're going to talk about Yankee Stadium. Yankee Stadium, smaller pitch. We like to control the ball in smaller areas. That's just the play style that we've seen for years now, but we've seen continue under the likes of Nick Cushing.
Futsal there in New York City FC. I think that's what it is, right? Like, you're not allowed to head the ball. No shots on the waist.
Look, we're a bunch of teenage kids, okay? No one's tall enough to really get up and get to the ball at that point, okay? But no, play style, right? Formationally, I think it's going to be a typical 4-3-3 that we see from NYCFC, right? I think sometimes we might see a transition into a little bit of like a 3-4-1-2 type of deal, 3-4-2-1. However you really want to, I guess, talk about the front three there, but a lot of the time when I think things are maybe a little bit slower, Nick Cushing, we've seen kind of drop James Sands back as like a central midfielder in a back three and allow his fullbacks to get up and then kind of adjust the formation that way. So that's some of the tactical change that we've seen, but pretty much the base is that standard 4-3-3.
So here's what we pulled up. This is a lot of this is thanks to random people on the internet. I also want to throw out Ben Wright's name, the guy from Nashville, Ben Wright.
Yep.
He has on his Twitter bio, an amazing depth chart for each and every team, like with money and ratings and colors and all kinds of stuff. So this is kind of what we put together, not from necessarily anyone in the know, but just kind of our best guess. Bakrar, he's first, last, always at the number 9. We're really putting a lot in that basket this year, aren't we?
Yeah, look, I have some slight adjustments I would probably make to this best 11 here or starting 11 here, but this is pretty much accurate, and it does start up top with Bakrar. He is the, I guess, of the non-homegrown talent that we have, he is the top and by far number 9. I would say that Nick Cushing would probably push Talis Magno, into that number 2 striker on the depth chart. Even though, again, I don't think it's his best position. I think you completely take away what he does best, but it would probably be Magno right behind him. But look, Bakrar, I think last year he scored 3 goals in 13 games between Leagues Cup and MLS action, and I like him. I think he's young himself. I think he's like 22 years old. I think he has a lot to grow into and a lot to learn. But I think towards the end of 2023, he really came into his own a little bit. I think as a connector, as a back to goal kind of guy, as a striker occupying space for the talented wingers to kind of do their thing. So he could be someone who we're talking about midsummer as a U22 initiative striker who is scoring a decent amount, but I think affecting the game in other ways as well.
Let's move down to the 2 wings. What is your likely left wing, right wing pair?
I'm going to say Talis Magno on the left wing. I'm going to say Julian Fernandez on the right wing. I think Hans Wolf is going to be more of a backup option. Again, probably more on the left and kind of maybe have him as a backup left wing back option as well. So Magno, he's the dude. Down season in 2023. I've said it a few times. I'm really hoping for the bounce back, because if he can play to the level we've seen years prior, I mean, NYCFC's a playoff team. If he can't and he's not, then we're relying on a lot of other young talent who doesn't really know the league to do so. So I'm hoping to see him starting on the left and playing at a very high level. And then Julian Fernandez, right? He was the summer winger signing that I mentioned before. And I think he has the potential to be breakout star level of MLS talent next year. I think he is someone who could be on the transfer list for heading into the 2025 season, someone who MLS fans will get a nice taste of, because he had a few goals last year in his debut with NYCFC, and a lot of them were very fun goals and very fun movement as well.
I think he had 2 goals in like 300 minutes or something like that last season. Let's move back to the midfield. We do have three guys here. I have it kind of like a one defensive midfielder, two other midfielders. How do we see them breaking down? Is it a 6 and 8 and a 10? Do we have 2 6s? How do you see the positions lining up, and then who's the best option at each one?
I would probably say a 10, an 8, and a 6, right? Kind of the more traditional 4-3-3 style there. I would probably put Santi sitting above Keaton and James. I think, again, I mentioned it before, Santi talent-wise is one of the best number 10s in the league. He is at a different age point, is at a different career point, but I think he's the guy who could extremely benefit as well from a full season of a full-time striker. I think he's the guy who I think we've seen his best play at NYCFC when Tati Castellanos was there, right? Obviously, big-time goal scorer, golden boot winner. A number 10 is going to love that, feed off of that. I think if he can be a leader with this team and kind of connect some young winger play with a striker who is still learning the game a little bit, I think he could be another one of those fun breakout stars for NYCFC and the main reason why we make the playoffs. As our main number 6, I'm going to go James Sands, right? USMNT International. We've seen him get that loan out to Rangers that didn't work that wasn't overly successful. He's now back with NYCFC, and I think one of the best 6s in the league. He clearly understands how to play the game. He is not Tyler Adams. I'm not going to sit here and say that, but he is Tyler Adams-esque in the sense of high energy, high motor. He will make that much needed tackle. And I think he will get another opportunity in Europe probably sooner rather than later. And Keaton Parks, he is that box to box. He is that 8. He is that guy who you're going to let him get forward a little bit. He's going to come back and he's going to make some impact and a play on defense. I think Keaton Parks is the most underrated player in Major League Soccer, period, bar none. What he does all over the field and what he did during that rough stretch that we saw in the beginning of last summer for NYCFC was incredible. I don't think if he was on a team that made the playoffs in the Eastern Conference last year, he is a starter every single club we're talking about. He makes an impact, whether it's defensively. He isn't the best offensive option or offensive weapon, but he'll get involved and he'll, I think, kind of get into spaces that also allow for others to do their thing. So I think Keaton Parks is unbelievable talent, best player on this team, MVP, captain, whatever you want to call him. That's what Keaton Parks is to me.
Love it. Let's you're cooking, so just keep going. Back line.
Keep going.
Back line, go.
All right. Back line, back 4. This is pretty much where I had my biggest concern with this depth chart, Bob. So I apologize. But Kevin O'Toole, yes, I think starting left back option. Hans Wolf is the only real other left back option on the club right now. Christian McFarland, homegrown left back, is a name to keep an eye out for. He's an English youth international. He's an English American. He is playing, I think, with England's U17s. Last time I checked, the U18s or something like that. He has been like the 5th left back option for NYCFC over the last 2 or 3 years. He could get his MLS debut this year, and I'm going to say most likely will. He has a lot of interest from English championship clubs to kind of bring him in, and he hasn't even played in a game or a minute in MLS. So I think that's really how the left back position looks out. Right back, Mitja Ilenic, he's getting some more international. He's getting actual international caps for Slovakia. I'm pretty sure it's Slovenia or Slovakia. I apologize to those two countries and those people, but he is the starting, or he's not the starting right back, but he is going to be our starting right back, and now he is getting international opportunities as well. And he's outplayed Tavon Gray, who was our starting right back when we won MLS Cup in 2021. I love Tavon. I think he's a clear-cut starting option for probably tons of other MLS clubs, and he's going to be a great backup for us at right back as well. Spot starter, all of that. My one issue here, Bob, was I think Burke Risa is our starting left center back. He is it's a breath of fresh air to see a left-footed center back come in that can actually move the ball and put in some beautiful line-breaking passes, and Burke Risa did that countless times in only whatever half a season with NYCFC. So I think you're going to see him at left center back. Thiago Martins, who's most likely going to be the captain, is going to be our right center back. And then, look, the depth options behind that is I'm not going to pronounce his name right again, but Tanasiljevic. He's going to be definitely probably main center back option to back up Martins and Risa. Justin Hack is going to get some minutes at center back, and so is Tavon Gray. I'm going to assume at a little bit of right center back as well.
Love it. Love it. Yeah, we're not going to interrupt you if you're cooking back there. So we're gonna let you keep talking. We do have some final questions before we get into some kind of predictions, stuff like that. First one is, will NYCFC's attack lineup this season? And I guess we kind of know now. You kind of already answered that question, but my next question is, are you relying on a lot of ifs in the attack?
Yes.
Because that's what it feels like right now. It doesn't feel like this is like a set it and forget it, like Talis Magno's an elite left wing or Bakar is definitely going to do it. Just like, yeah, okay, we're going to try that for now. I
think this is the thing, and I know we chatted about this a little bit before in the recording, the episode, right? This is where youth is a great thing, but this is where also youth is a damage to a club, is a damage to a team over the course of a season. I think Talis Magno, talent-wise, you could argue is the best top 3 winger in Major League Soccer. I think you could argue that point. But the consistency in his youth is not there. Since I would say because of his youth, I think because of a few off-the-field issues as well, is not there, and I don't expect him to produce like a top 10 winger in Major League Soccer. But I think talent-wise, there's flashes of this guy is a freak of nature, and there's a reason why that big
almost like a Cade Cowell, if I could throw a comparison out there, like someone who never, and I know Cade Cowell's doing amazing now in South America, but I said every year, and what did he produce in Major League Soccer? Like, he looked big, he looked fast,
almost nothing.
His production was almost nothing.
Exactly. And I think that's what Talis Magno is. I think eventually NYCFC are just going to sell him on to, a European club, and it's going to be probably a price that fans are going to be like, that's a high transfer fee for what? And maybe, like at the end of the day, maybe. But when you look at whether it's Magno, it's Bakar, it's Fernandez, it's Ojeda, right? These are all extremely young guys that are going to have flashes of magic, and it's going to look brilliant at times, and it's going to be so much fun. But what comes with that is inconsistency, and these guys not playing to the highest level, not playing to the top of their abilities, and it's going to be some down points. It's going to be some down games, and that's what I think fans of Major League Soccer should expect from this attack, once again, from NYCFC.
Do you think that someone like Talis Magno would benefit from having more leadership around the team? Like, I know you've got Maxi Morales kind of still around the team, even though he's been injured, but looking through this roster, it's a young roster. It's a very young roster. Average age 22.4. Thiago Martins is your captain. He's 28. But especially in this attacking group, there's not a lot of age or experience.
Yeah.
I'm just looking, where's that consummate professional who's like, Talis, hey, this is how you be a pro. This is how you perform at your best every week. Like, is that hurting this team to not have that guy?
Personally, I believe so. And I believe that NYCFC's lack of looking inter MLS and making those inter MLS moves hurts them a lot, right? I think, if you look at pretty much everyone on this roster, it's either a homegrown player or outside of Andres Perea, who they brought in this offseason, and Matt Freese, both from Philly, funny enough. There isn't guys who are MLS experienced players. I say that if you want to win MLS Cup, you need true MLSers. And those are dudes who are not starters necessarily. Those are dudes who will eat up minutes. Those are dudes who know how long and grueling an MLS season can be. And maybe, to your point, right, like, be like, Tyus, like, you got to get out of your head, bro. Like, you know, you need to focus. You need to get back into this. You're a big time talent. The team's relying on you. Like, this is how you do it, right? And there isn't that veteran leadership. It's Maxi Morales who's injured. It's Thiago Martins. And I honestly think Keaton Parks is the next oldest player at like 26 years old, or however old he is, you know? So there isn't that player, there isn't that veteran, there isn't that leadership. And, you know, Nick Cushing's 38 or 39 himself. So that is a major concern, I think, that the team should be trying to address. But, you know, will they? That's the different point.
Not every team in New York can have Emil Forsberg on their squad. That's for sure. All right. So what should the goal be? Let's wrap it up. What should the goal be? You want to find a playoff spot.
Yes, I think get back into the playoffs. I think playing above that play-in game, like, you want to be in a playoff spot that's not that play-in game that we saw Charlotte and Red Bulls play in last year. I think it's have all of these guys take a step forward, right? And I'm not even saying giant steps forward. I think you need to see Bakrar stepping into, he can be a full-time MLS starter. I think Julian Fernandez and Augustino Heda, they're worth the transfer fees that we brought in for guys who did relatively nothing in their young South American careers before bringing them over. I think you want to see James Sands continue to be that dude. You want to see Keaton Parks continue to be that dude. And you need to see a star or that reliable game winner emerge from this roster. To me, it's Talles Magno. I know I've said his name about 1 million times on this episode, but it's I say it because it's true, because the talent is there. Just watch this dude 2 seasons ago. Watch this dude during the MLS Cup playoff run. The talent is so there, and if he can just mentally, I think, stay in a full game, I think if he can just put it all together and get consistent minutes out on the left wing, I think he can do that. So I think it's just seeing the young talent take a step forward, and I think having that all come together, being in a playoff spot that's not that play-in game.
All right, Tom, thank you so much for joining us here today as we preview NYCFC for the 2024 Major League Soccer season. Go find, subscribe of MLS Aces. Love what they're doing there, and, you know, some great minor league content too going on. I saw you guys working over at Goals TV. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so, well, look, MLS Aces, we've been doing it for a while now. We're on episode 283, the Eastern Conference preview. We're going to go through all 15 teams in the East, and then next week the West. But we're going to do that this week, so tomorrow or whatever, the 15th, stay tuned for that. Listen to that. Subscribe. That's much, much appreciated. And, you know, we're connecting over at Goals TV. Me and Jose Tellez, who is the founder, one of the head dudes, he is the head dude over at Goals TV. Him and I have partnered up. We're dropping a USL Aces podcast this upcoming USL Championship season. It's going to be bi-weekly just to kind of start out and get our feet wet in the whole thing. I'm a fan of U.S. soccer at all its levels. Jose is a fan of soccer at all levels, and I think we're kind of merging that together to see if we can get the blend of USL fan to MLS fan somewhere in between, because I really just feel like there's a butting head rivalry with the two leagues and how they operate, and I think it's okay to merge in the middle and just be a fan of everything U.S. soccer. But, you know, we'll do our best with that this upcoming season.
And since they open up the sports book, we can bet on all of it. You know, that's what I'm interested in. Tom, thank you so much for being here with us tonight. And everyone who tuned in, thank you so much. Have a great week.